Good evening. First of all, the important stuff. Thank you so much for the support on our last two videos. I appreciate all the kind words so much. These numbers are absolutely insane for my small little channel. I've been trying a few new things lately and I'm so happy to see that you all enjoy it. Now for the realsies. What is this video about? I already talked about this game once and I'm not really someone who repeats the same subjects twice, right? To be honest, I didn't feel like I talked about everything I could have talked about last time. And we got a release date. As I'm writing, the full game is coming out in 2 weeks or so. Make sure you wishlist it, you goober. This video is going to be divided into 3 parts. Part 1, analyzing the lore we already have and making my own theories. Part 2, playing the full release. And Part 3, trying to understand what is actually happening and making my final thoughts. As I'm writing this, it is currently September 2nd, while the full release is on September 15th. If you don't have a clue as to what's going on or what this game is, here's a quick summary. We play as a lonely protagonist who need to choose who they let inside their home at night while the sun starts burning anyone outside during the day, and a menace called the Visitors are outside to kill humans. I'm not exactly going to do another summary of my playthroughs this time around or give any more context, so if you do want to know more about the game, you can watch this video and then come back here. Alrighty, time to dive back in. First of all, the one thing I'd like to mention that I found out just recently is that the number given to contact the FEMA is 0451, which is a reference to the book Fahrenheit 451. It's a novel about a dystopian American society in which books are burned and the firemen burn any that they can find. The novel itself is a comment on censorship, which makes you think, is the FEMA trying to hide information from the public about the visitors or maybe something else? There is also the mention of the woman with cat from the guy who comes to your door and makes you choose a page of his book. He always says to let her in, and there's this little cat in one of the game's trailers, and then there's this teaser from Twitter as well. We don't know much about her at all, but it makes me wonder how the future reading guy who comes to the door even knows about her. And frankly, she shares a lot of physical traits with the visitor who asks if you're alone, like the teeth, weird white smile, and just in general the deformed uncanny body they both have. It makes me wonder if maybe the cat is the important part here, and we'd have to take her in as a gamble despite very obviously being a visitor. I'm also curious to know if that means the guy with the book would tell us to let in more people, or on the contrary tell us not to let someone inside. And how does he even know in the first place, actually? Now, one of the interesting things I noticed is that this guy had a line specifically unchanged in the Summerfest demo. The dead will come and tell, and he will not be believed. Who's he in this context? The smiling visitor? This could also be a hint as to where the visitors came from in the first place. It's told they dug up from underground in the news segment that lets us know they have dirty nails. Now obviously this personally reminds me of the general idea of zombies from pop culture. They're creatures who dig up from underground to eat people's brains. That sounds a little similar. Though it seems visitors seem to mutilate people's bodies and in general kill them, not eat them, but it does suggest that visitors have come back from the dead one way or another. How? That's a good question. We already know the FEMA is definitely hiding something, or at least it seems so. I like to think they know why, or maybe even are why. The FEMA has always been weird, even from the first version of the game on the VHS collection. First of all, they don't let you choose who to send out when they come by during one of the nights and choose randomly. It makes sense at first, but the more I think about it, the more I think that wouldn't it be more intelligent to have the person who's actively in the house 24/7 tell you who they find weird? Unless they think we ourselves are a visitor, that is. They also wear hazmat suits and make it clear that we can too if we feel the need to, but that it shouldn't be necessary. Hazmat suits are not really the most protective type of gear, and knowing the visitors can literally kill people, why wear one as if you're scared of something hurting you or infecting you? They're also seen taking oil samples from the ground, and they say to take the visitors to quarantine zones. All this genuinely makes me believe they treat the visitor crisis more like an infection or pandemic rather than them being literal walking killers. I also do not actually take anything the drunk guy says in consideration when making my own thoughts. Thanks to one of the characters in the Summerfest demo, Angry Guy, we know there is a cult that worships the sun as an entity spreading around, and it seems that the drunk guy is either part of that cult or at least believes in what they're saying. This is also why I don't quite believe in the visitors or aliens theory, though that's just one of my personal thoughts. Some people also lean towards the supernatural explanation, something like doppelgangers or even vampires. I'll be honest, while it could make complete sense, I think that's way too easy of an explanation. The game also almost seems to want you to think that in the first place. The characters' weird proportions, the dialogue that sound out of place, the symptoms that are usually things used to identify those creatures. It sounds too easy while not totally impossible either. There is a radio segment retelling the story of someone becoming a visitor after getting possessed by an evil spirit. But come on, what the hell we're supposed to make of this part in one of the trailers then? A specific part about the visitors is that they only kill when there are at least 2 of them in your house. So when you get that someone died last night notification in the morning, that doesn't mean you messed up once, but twice. What's interesting about this is that means they kill in groups, not alone, which is proof by the fact the smiling visitor kills you if you only have visitors in your house while he seems scared to come in when you have humans. But why? They seem 100 times stronger than any human. And if they kill in duos, why only kill one person each night? Wouldn't it be easier to get more people at once? The smiling visitor is weird in how he seems to take out whole FEMA squads easily, but other visitors are otherwise taken down way more easily. Also, one of the neighbor's lines in West's demo mentions that he has a friend sitting at his house. What if that friend was a visitor? It's an idea I personally have, not otherwise having any kind of explanation why his house burned down. That would realize a visitor in by accident. I've also always wondered how his daughter manages to escape, but I don't have any ideas for that sadly. The cashier girl explains that she woke up during the day. How the fuck are you alive? This is what happened to someone after spending just a few hours outside, bro. There's a possibility of them simply being immune to the sun's heat, but it's just a possibility, and I can't really think of a reason why they'd be immune in the first place. As far as we know, they have the same skin as us, so I'm not too sure why it would even react differently. My theory so far, 2 weeks before the game's release, again, I'd like to mention, is somewhat inspired by the SCP Foundation. I might sound stupid. I have zero fucking clue, just let me cook, alright? The FEMA hazmat suits, their way of containing the menace instead of eradicating it, makes me think they somehow created the visitors or maybe discovered them at some point. It's said the FEMA is a unit created and deployed by the government, and the way it's formulated makes it sound recent, in my opinion. We also have the reference to Fahrenheit 451, and that makes me think it could very well be the secret they're trying to censor or hide from us, which explains how they're able to find symptoms every day, because what if they already knew them in the first place? My idea is maybe one or more of them escaped somehow, and from there starts the events of the game. The hazmat suits suggest you can be infected by visitors one way or another, which explains Cashier Girl not knowing she's a visitor at first. Side note, from recording Sylvie here, in one of the trailers, you can actually check yourself through the mirror in the bathroom, which puts my theory in the right direction, I believe. Honestly, at this point, I'm just rambling, and overall, I guess I'll see you on the 15th. Bro, holy shit, this game is so filled to the brim in a good way. First of all, we have 10 endings. Yes, 10, and yet I only managed to unlock 5. I don't want to talk about it. And we also have double the amount of days compared to the demo. If you remember correctly, we had 5 in the demo, well this time around we have 14. I'm not even 100% sure how much guests there are now, but if I had to guess, I'd say we have more than double the amount from the demo and VHS collection combined. I'm also missing only one of them to have met everyone. Safe to say I'm pissed about that, but honestly, yeah, this game is amazing. And I was right. If you let in the girl with a cat, who is a visitor after all as well, the Haghead guy comes back with more divinations. The second time he tells you to basically not test anyone for 2 days and resume after, in which case he comes back to tell you to dig under the dirt you have in your basement. Oh, right, sorry, yeah, you can access your basement in the final game. It's also related to another quest I'll be talking about later. To be 100% honest here, I was only just scared the full game wouldn't be up to my expectations. Like I said before, I've known about this game since it was only on the VHS collection, and I genuinely loved it to the point of remembering who's a human and who's a visitor. But I was legitimately blown away by the quality of the full game. Genuine props to all the people who worked on this. I felt the effort and love you put into this project from the start. Also, I was right! At least I think so. One of the TV segments mentions at some point that you can in fact get infected by visitors, which also explains why you have to check yourself. Also, there's another reason for that we'll touch on soon. Another TV segment also says the visitors were infected by some sort of product, which I don't think this is true this time around. How the fuck would they have dug up from underground if they were simply infected? Unless it's started by visitors digging up from under the ground and then infecting everyone else, but I doubt it. Moreover, like as expected, the smiling visitor isn't the quote-unquote leader of the visitors, if that makes sense. The last time you see him, he says he's simply following orders, which is totally not worrying me at all, don't worry guys. The different TV segments contradicting themselves really make me realize that you can't trust the TV, which makes sense because they're promoting the FEMA, which are still as suspicious, by the way. All they do throughout the whole game is take people from your house without explaining at all how it's supposed to help, other than we're gonna do tests and give them back to you if they're safe, but you never see them again. And if you dare question them, they get all pissy at you like, my bad for having concerns. Yeah, I definitely think the FEMA is the one giving the intruder the quote-unquote orders. Do not ask me why, I just have a sinking suspicion. Alright, there's this guy who's your neighbor's brother who shoots you if you show him signs of being a visitor, like the TV says. This is where checking yourself comes into play, so you can tell which sign to show him so you don't get shot. If he does shoot you, you will get this ending where the protect somehow lives. Hell, the actual fuck my bro was shot in the stomach and goes to take revenge on pretty much everyone else who hurt other people like that guy did. Honestly, I like the idea of showing just how insane a protagonist can get. It's original, and this was also a good way to show that off. Speaking of our protagonist, and finally learning a little bit more about him for the number we get on the TV for quote-unquote phone roulette, in which you randomly assign someone on the phone to have a conversation with. If the person on the other end of the line isn't speaking, you get the option to tell them a little bit about yourself, in which all the options more or less go back to having an abusive father. And it's also mentioned that the house we live in was his dad and mother's house that they inherited after they passed, which they are not too happy about. Rightfully so. One of the guests that messed me up the most is this girl. She did also appear in one of the trailers, if any of you remember her from there. She's a human, but over the course of a few nights you can see her visibly pregnant and not having a fun time. If you talk to her about it, she seems to think that you're mostly simply hallucinating from everything that's going on, but after a few nights you wake up in the morning to the jump scare you get when you kill a visitor, and after going through the news segment, yeah, this messed me up very badly. I'm not 100% sure what happened, but the fact that she was pregnant was a visitor from what I can tell. Yeah, I was so sad for her here. Oh right, another weird guy is this dude who talks about mushrooms in the mushroom festival a lot. It gives you another type of quest like the head guy, but I couldn't really figure out how to do it properly, so if any of you have any ideas about that, let me know. To go back to head guy, Willem had it. After he tells you to dig in the dirt inside your basement, if you dig 3 times, you unlock some kind of weird passage beneath your basement. You can find it talks to a miner there who dug with some of their friends underground to escape the heat, which is honestly really smart. But they eventually found a hole that seemed fully endless. Some of them went in there, and it seems they're the only one of them left now. The next day you can come back and jump into the hole. Pause. Before I talk about this more, I need to mention the cultists. The leader comes to your house one night because they can feel quote-unquote death around it. He asks you to let in his cultists, and you don't have a choice. Over a few days you can talk to them and learn that they think of death as some kind of way to be free from stuff. Honestly, I had trouble understanding what the hell they were talking to me about most of the time. If you keep them alive long enough for their leader to come back, you have the option to go out with them and basically join their cult. But I didn't do that purely because I unlocked the option on my first playthrough and wanted to see more of the game, and they kept getting taken by the FEMA after that, so rip. Okay, back to the hole. If you jump down, you'll eventually meet, well, death herself. All of a sudden, this explains why the cultists wanted to stay here. You have a short conversation with her before getting sent to what appears to be your house in some kind of alternate universe where everything is peaceful compared to the usual things you can see in the game. The protagonist ends up deciding to stay in what appears to be some kind of purgatory, or well, their deepest desire at least, and they themselves say they don't want to leave. I'm guessing the hole is so deep that you end up dying when falling in it, and you eventually meet death because you died in the first place. But I could be wrong. So, I think it goes without saying that this is one of my favorite games, right? I like nearly everything they did with the final game, and what I didn't, they're already planning to fix. Like the game saving upon leaving instead of constantly having to drink kombucha, which honestly, if I had to guess, are they inspired by the ink ribbons in Resident Evil, like the first games? For those unaware, in the first Resident Evil games, you needed to use ink ribbons in order to save, which you got in very limited quantity, pretty much like the kombucha. No, I'm not human. Just a theory though. If you want to know if I learned anything more about the lore and story, I'd say they definitely expanded on everything, but left a lot of questions unanswered. Perhaps on purpose. Option 1, we're getting some kind of sequel or follow-up game that'll explain everything. Or option 2, they never necessarily planned on explaining everything. Let me explain what I mean. No, I'm Not Human is clearly said to be a psychological horror game, and sometimes the whole point of these games is to not be explicitly told every detail. You have to make it up yourself or be left in the dark. You're starting to see why you Silent Hill 2 gameplay at the beginning of the video, aren't you? Perhaps the scariest thing is not a visitor knocking on your door or a weird shady organization forcefully taking people from your house, or even the sun burning outside, but the fact that you can't do anything about it. You're simply a lonely person forced into some kind of apocalypse who's trying to get through it and trying to help people in the process, and you can't do anything more. You're purely and simply a little ant in a world where nothing makes sense, forced to see death all around you, even in your own home that used to be a place of safety. Maybe, after all, that's the scariest thing. Thank you so much for watching if you're still here. I hope you enjoyed. You can treat this video as some kind of complimentary chapter on the first one I made about this game. I honestly like it so much I fear I wanted to talk about it again. Don't judge me. Now that the full game is out, I can officially say this. Go buy the game. It's amazing and you won't regret it. Or you will, and in which case I do not take responsibility for that. And congrats to everyone who worked on this game for 100,000 sales already. Absolutely deserved. Make sure to follow them on their socials, linked in the description if you want to stay updated. I know they're planning on releasing translation in the coming months for other languages, so maybe keep an eye on that if your language isn't supported in the game. As always, you can find me here, and I stream Dead by Daylight most days of the week on Twitch. I've got some pretty cool stuff cooking over there, if I do say so myself. And we're also just very fun. I've got a lookout to get to and also a burger to grab on the way there. See you later.